I think one of my biggest pieces of advice:
do not buy new construction.
My biggest financial regret that I've ever had in life was purchasing a home.
I think I fully regret buying a house now.
Hello and welcome to the Financial Flop, where we cover the internet's most extreme financial mistakes so you don't personally have to make them. In today's video, we're going to cover home buying regrets, otherwise known as the singular way that you can ruin your life with one signature. Thanks for clicking on today's video, and let's jump right in.
I think I fully regret buying a house now. Like, it's not the worst choice I ever made, but it's so expensive. But at the same time, it's exactly what rent would be costing me anyways. I'm almost an hour away from where I want to be and almost an hour away from work. It's a lot of upkeep, a lot of maintenance. I feel like the housing market could crash at any minute, and interest rates were high when I bought it. And
I mean, nothing that he's saying so far is really that far-fetched. He's talking about the housing market being on the verge of collapse. We all kind of feel that around. Everyone's kind of like saying it, but not really talking about it too much. Values have been stagnant for a couple of years now since COVID, and really it wouldn't take much to throw the market over the edge, and we could see pretty good sizable drops in home values. It sounds like he's in the suburbs, far away from his job, far away from where he likes to hang out socially, most likely. And people look to the suburbs as a way to get into real estate, with something that they can more easily afford. Being that it's a little further out of the city, it's going to be a little cheaper, more manageable. But he really didn't probably weigh as well as he could have the pros and cons of living an hour outside of work and an hour outside of his friends and his places that he likes to hang out socially. And right now he's feeling that. So really it's just kind of a growing pain. But other than that, most people drive a commute. It's really not that unheard of. I think the average commute in the United States is probably 30 to 40 minutes. Mine myself is really, it's over an hour. It's about an hour and 10 minutes. So you could make the best of that and dedicate that time to listen to music, listen to podcasts, learning, meditating, just decompressing after work. Really so many things that you can really make the best of a decently long commute. And it really doesn't have to be that big of a negative or drawback to your home owning experience. But sounds like kind of for him that he doesn't really like it too much.
so were prices. I rationalized it by telling myself, well, it's the same amount as rent and I should get something back out of it at the end of the day, which honestly at this point might not even be true. And I'm far away from everything and I have an hour-long commute and I'm tired and I'm in a 3-bedroom house and I live alone. I'm very thankful that I'm able to do this. Don't get me wrong.
Good to know he's thankful and grateful, and really he's just most likely venting about the frustrations of his commute. And homeowning is not easy. He didn't really even mention the much of the maintenance and upkeep and extra costs, but we all know that they exist too.
I just don't know if it was the right choice, and I'm stressing over it right now. I've only been here for like 8 months. I don't know what to do.
Well, yeah, as far as what to do, it's really just, you've been there for 8 months. So give it some time, give it at least a year, give it a couple of years. And really you can't make, a hasty decision after buying a home. And, let the adjustment of your commute and, the homeowning experience sink in and see how you feel in a couple of years. Let's go ahead and check out some of the comments and see what some of the viewers have to say about his experience. So just put tenants in it and get an apartment where you want to be. Not a bad idea. He could turn his experience as being a homeowner an hour away from work and an hour away from his social hangouts. Then he could put a tenant in it. As long as he has a decently sized emergency fund, 3 to 6 months, and a little bit of a home repair budget for his tenants. It might not be a bad idea just turn it into a rental property and move to an apartment closer to all the action. I hated being a homeowner, back to renting and texting my landlord when things go wrong, to include the microwave. That's so funny because reading that comment, it really gives me some look back to my own personal experience. This one time, my family and I were in a rental house. Our oven quit working. And believe it or not, this happened like a day or two before Thanksgiving one year. And, we texted the landlord and said, hey, our oven's out. How are we going to cook Thanksgiving meal? And what was nice about being a tenant is that's on him. He went to a local store and picked up a countertop oven and brought it by. And while the oven took a couple of weeks to get a service repair on, we had provide a solution, no charge to us. And that's kind of one of the obvious, maybe not so obvious to everyone, but one of the greatest benefits of renting is something breaks and it's not on you. You just make a call, send a text, and it's pretty much out of sight, out of mind for you, at least for your wallet. The mistake is being too far away from where you want to be. It's isolating. That's really, I think, what's driving him the craziest is he was used to being close to his friends, close to work, probably close to, places that he liked to hang out. And he moved an hour away. And now he feels like he's so far removed from everything that he loves that it's maybe even causing some depression and some isolation. That can be quite the adjustment. I bought mine last year. I moved out and moved to Atlanta for a year and put tenants in my place. But after a while, apartment life started to get to me, sharing walls, noise, etc. I'm moving back once my tenant's lease is up. Nothing like being in your own space. Now, that is very true. So it sounds like Donnie here experienced both owning, thought it wasn't for him, moved to an apartment closer to where he wanted to be, spent some time back in the apartment life, and got to weigh some of the pros and cons of what he liked about each. And now he's making a choice to move back. See, he afforded himself options because he chose to not sell the place, but then rent it out. And now he's getting to move back and then live his happiness again. So that's great. Good to see.
Do not buy new construction. I repeat, do not buy a home that is new construction. I'm going to tell y'all a little story. I bought a home roughly seven and a half years ago from the company D.R. Horton.
Oh no, not D.R. Horton.
One of the worst development companies there is out there. They put these homes up fast and cheap. So I bought a home from D.R. Horton, brand new home. It was a townhouse and was the first one on the block to purchase a home. First ones on the block. They offered an incentive they usually do under new construction to pay majority of the closing costs.
So a couple things I'm already seeing here. He bought a D.R. Horton house, which I don't know if you know, but they are known for being a high producing production builder that focuses on spec homes. So I don't even know if they're building build to order homes even anymore, which means that like you go to the builder, you pick out a plan, you get to like semi customize it with different features. Last time that I checked with them, out of curiosity, they were only doing spec homes. So basically, they designed the home to be the most mass appeal that they could, and you just come in and buy it as is. You don't get to like pick countertops, pick cabinetry, pick lighting, and different fixtures and stuff. So kind of a different avenue that they've gone, really more volume, which I think probably, again, speaks to some of the quality behind the product. But yeah, also just to kind of piggyback on the incentive thing that he's talking about. So one of the things that builders do is they offer different incentives to entice buyers to purchase a new construction house. And the reason they do that is because if you think about it, new builders are typically building multiple phases of construction. So like they'll open phase one, build it out, open phase two, build it out, so on and so forth for multiple phases. And essentially to ensure prices either stay flat or in most cases, over time, they go up. To make that possible, they do not negotiate on the price of their homes. So in order to stay competitive with the market and with buyer demand, they utilize incentive packages. Most commonly, they'll use rate buy downs, closing cost free to the buyer, lender paid. they'll do incentive packages in the design studio. So they'll give you like 10 or 20 or however many thousands of dollars to spend in their design center, which if you're going to spend the money already, it can be a fine deal. But in other ways, it does just kind of trick buyers to spend more than they probably would have in most cases, at least for the lower to mid-range homes, maybe not in like a higher end home where people are going to make more custom options. But really, it's just giving you free money to use to buy upgrades, which they're just selling you at a significantly marked up price anyway. So kind of a little trickery there going on.
The reason why I went for it, because that closing costs can get expensive, and this was in South Florida, Fort Lauderdale, so very expensive. So they were paying offering to pay majority of the closing costs, so went with them, and it was new construction. 2, maybe 3 years in, house already has a major plumbing problem. We had the kitchen was right below the master bathroom. It was 2-story, obviously, townhouse. So the kitchen was right below the master bathroom. I take a shower one day, then come downstairs and almost bust my ass in the kitchen. Water everywhere. I'm like, damn, what's going on? Like, I ain't leave the sink running or nothing like that. The dish.
Guys, for real, like the thought and feeling that was going through his head, like I can personally relate. Like anytime you have a flood or a leak, basically water damage coming in your home, if you're able to like witness it in action, that is so incredibly scary that often, at least in my own experience, it seems like, at least for the short period, like my brain literally just shut off. And so I'll give you an example. Like we were changing out a faucet, maybe like a few months ago in one of our bathrooms. And in the process, one of the pipes ended up busting and water started spraying everywhere. And, common sense would say, hey, shut off the water, dummy. But, it took us probably like a good 90 seconds to think of that. And we were literally trying to just wrap our brains around what was happening right now, because so much water was shooting straight up from the counter all the way to the ceiling. It was incredibly stressful. And so I can relate. And that, really sucks for him, especially in a new construction. Like that is the last thing you want to see is water leaks and water damage. So let's see what happens.
Washer ain't flooded. What's going on? The washing machine ain't flooded. What's going on? So I'm looking around, scratching my head, and then I look up. I see a huge water stain in the roof, in the ceiling. So I'm tall enough. I take my finger, poke right through it.
Oh,
water, just dripping. I'm like, damn, what the hell? Had 3 plumbers come to diagnose the problem. 3. Every last
3's better than 1.
one of them came in there and said, who built this house? They said, D.R. Horton. They said, let me show you something. The first one said, let me show you something. He said, you see these pipes right here? Put the little flashlight. See these pipes right here? Terrible. All this material, cheap. He said, you would have had to redo all this sooner or later. I said, okay. Thank you, sir. Next one. The next one had worked on a couple houses in the neighborhood, and as soon as he came in the house and he looked at the hole in that kitchen, he said, I don't even need to go up there. He said, I already know what the problem is. I said, what you mean? He said, your neighbors I've done 3 houses. They all had the same problem.
That plumber's making a killing right there. Come on now.
Third one come in. The reason why I get the third one is because it's my dad's guy that he uses. So I was like, I should just use him from the jump. But he come in there, he put the little flashlight. He said, yep, these pipes is trash, and I already know what the problem is. Do not buy new construction. They are putting these houses up fast and cheap. You're looking.
Y'all, and when he's talking about a D.R. Horton fast and cheap house, he's probably talking like they're building these spec homes in like 4, 5, 6 months. Whereas like an average new builder, that you can go in and order the plans and pick one of their floor plans and then design it. That's probably going to take like 6 to 8, maybe even 9 months. And if you do a kind of a more middle to upper end new construction build, you're probably looking at more like 9 to 12 months. And that process is longer because, permitting is going to take longer, design is going to take longer, drafting changes to the floor plan, and then re-permitting. Just in general, like the more custom a house is, the longer the build will take. And hopefully the better materials that they're using too. But I can't imagine that's always the case. In general, it's kind of a widely held belief that new construction homes are just not built to the quality of the standard of years ago construction standards. So that is what it is.
Especially if it's your first home, you're going to look at it and see a nice home. Oh, 3-bedroom, 3-bath, 2-car garage, nice yard space. Oh my God, look at the neighborhood, honey. Let's get it. And you're going to get in that house and you will start having major structural problems, plumbing problems, roofing problems, all that. Septic tank problems. You're going to start having all these problems. They are putting these houses up fast and cheap. Fast and cheap is the name of the game. Fast and cheap. Beware. The best thing to do will be to build your house from the ground up. Be right there when they break ground and watch them go through the whole process. Don't go.
How are you going to do that? I mean, are you not working? Are you not at your job? Are you just going to be on the work site 9 to 5 and sit in your car and watch the construction crew show up and watch the construction crew walk around and work all day? No, that's like completely unfeasible. I think a better way to put it is, if you're going to build a home with any kind of production builder, closely monitor the progress and the status, and inspect to the best of your ability and knowledge as the build is going on. Don't just trust and have blind faith that they're going to build it with integrity and use the materials that they ought to.
Go the cheap route. You will pay for it in the long run. These companies, and I'm putting D.R. Horton on blast because they're the ones that I bought my first home from. These companies are sparing every expense to put these houses up, using the cheapest materials and using unlicensed, unskilled labor to get these houses put up. I know in Georgia it's real bad here, but these companies are putting these houses up everywhere across America, fast and cheap. Do not buy new construction. I wouldn't even buy from D.R. Horton, to be specific, but there are other companies that do the same thing, to put up fast and cheap. Do your research. I will specifically warn y'all about D.R. Horton. Do not buy a home from D.R. Horton, and do not buy, new construction.
All right, so let's go ahead and jump into some of the comments here. I had buyer's remorse really bad the month I moved in. That lasted for 2 years. But now it's been 3 years, and I look at it as a stepping stone to get to where I want to be eventually. It doesn't have to be your forever home. So 2 years of buyer's remorse, and then a year of a 180, and now it's a stepping stone to get to where you want to be. Yes and no. It can be a stepping stone if it's, if it all works out. I don't want to be like Debbie Downer or anything, but homes do not always go up in value. Contrary to popular belief, like if you had bought a home in 2022 and now we're in 2025, that's 3 years. Home values in a lot of areas of the country are flat to quite a few areas have gone down the last 3 years. So that doesn't necessarily mean that if you wanted to get out of it today, that you would be financially able to do so. But I do resonate with, it doesn't have to be your forever home. sometimes people go into buying a home and they're like, yeah, it's my forever home. And then they're there for 2 years and then they want something different. There's nothing wrong with changing your mind and wanting something different. It's really just mentality is your home, your personal home is not so much an investment as it is a use asset. So you want to get use out of it. And when you want to change it out for getting use out of a different asset, do it as long as it's financially not a burden to you. That's my opinion, at least. Life's too short, dude. Rent it out or sell it. Totally agree. If he bought it 7 years ago, so he's probably sitting on a pretty dang good interest rate, and also probably has quite a bit of appreciation in it. I would rent it out myself if I were in that boat. House broke is hella real. Totally 100% agree. You do not want to be house broke, as defined as having too much of your take-home pay needed to cover your mortgage and housing expenses. That's considered house poor or house broke. Not a fun place to be. Do something fun or creative to the house that you couldn't do with renting. Find the whimsy. I think that's a fun suggestion because, to be honest, he kind of sounds like he's a little bit over the new construction. Maybe there's not enough uniqueness in the home. Maybe it's very cookie cutter and it's giving him a very sour impression of his home. So this comment's kind of fitting because, dude, you're the homeowner. So, put up some wallpaper, paint the walls, change the counters, put some new flooring in, do something fun, change some fixtures, make it feel personal and intimate, like it's your space, and reinvigorate, your attitude towards the home. And that might be just the thing that you're looking for. A home is a long-term investment. You don't always see the immediate return, as people have gotten used to in the last few years. Totally agree. The wise advice is don't buy a home unless you plan to be there for 5 to 7 years. Anything less than that is very risky in terms of your break-even point. Recouping your closing costs for the buy and the sell, and not to mention, like in the market we're in now, you could be underwater on the house. So long-term investment, meaning like over the long term, 10 years, 15, 25 years, real estate values go up over that long of a time span because they generally are indexed to just north of the inflation rate. So over the long term, you should make money. Maybe not as much money as other investments, but still for a use asset, for it to go up is a great thing. And your liability on the property is going down. So it's a win-win in that case.
My biggest financial regret that I've ever had in life was purchasing a home back in 2021 for these 3 reasons. Number one, I had to put a 30% down payment on my home. My down payment was roughly around $330,000.
Wow, that is so much money. So this home was like, what is that? $900, $1 million. That's a lot. 30% down is a lot, and this guy doesn't look that old either. So well done. That's a significant amount.
I bought my 2-bedroom, 3-bath townhome for $910,000. And the reason
Townhomes are tough, though. They generally don't appreciate at the same rate that single family homes do, which makes them a bit trickier in terms of anticipated appreciation over the long term. But sounds like at that price point, it's probably in a pretty affluent area or a higher dollar market, like a higher market priced area, I would say, based on that price.
The reason why we had to put so much down at the time was just because of my income. I was only making around, I think, $100,000 to $110,000. That was the only way we could get the math work.
That's not the best reason to put a crap ton of money down, because really what you're doing there is you're compensating for your income to make it affordable in terms of the, price to, or not in terms of the price, but in terms of the payment to your income, also known as your debt to income. So forcing that equation to work with a hefty down payment just means that you're using your own assets to compensate for buying a more expensive home with a smaller income, essentially. Not the best outcome.
Now, my monthly mortgage payment, if you factor in interest, taxes, HOA, etc., it's roughly around $4,200. If I was renting right now, I could probably rent a really nice 2-bedroom condo or apartment for $3,500. So that would save me $700 a month. However, had I just not bought a home, I could have taken that $300 and $10,000, $20,000 that I used as a down payment and just invested in the stock market. We all know.
All right. So here's really, I think, the biggest thing that's happening right here is this guy had a $4,300 mortgage payment inclusive of all of his escrow, and he made like $100,000 when he bought it. So his take-home pay would have been around $8,000, $8,500, give or take. That means that his payment to net income was over 50%. So like what, 50, 53%? That's a lot. And really that's really putting him in the camp of house poor. And that's with putting over $300,000 down. Can you imagine having $300,000 in your bank or in your, your investment account, and then taking that out, putting it down on a house and still being house poor? Feeling like you have no liquidity and no money to spend to do anything, like go out to eat, have a car payment, hopefully an affordable one, go to the movies, do whatever. Like, heck, you can't do much spending over 50% of your payment, your income on your house payment. It's pretty limiting.
Oh, the stock market bottomed in 2022, and fuck, man, you see where it is today, right? I could easily have an extra, at the very minimum, a couple $100,000 in my stock portfolio.
Dude, that's really tough though, because like, what do they say? Hindsight being like 2020. You're saying if I hadn't put 300K on the house, I would have put it in the stock market. Stock market was at the bottom. It went up like 50%. So my 300 would have turned into what, 450? Yeah, in hindsight, sure it would have. And also in hindsight, your home didn't probably go up much between 2022 and 2025. So it kind of feels like, well, crap, bad decision. But you don't really ever know that before you're going to make the decision. So really hindsight is one thing, reality is another, and it could have gone the opposite direction. Like your $900,000 house could have turned into 1.5 or 2 million, and the stock market could be at 22 levels still. Like there's no reason that you would have known that it would have gone up 50%. You see what I'm saying? So he's just getting a little bit of FOMO, I think. So try not to have FOMO when it comes to investing or lack of investing in either the stock market or real estate. And that'll, let you live a little bit more peaceably.
2, in the market that I live in, renting is actually cheaper than buying a home. Again, as I previously stated, I probably am paying an extra, $700 to $1,000 more per month by owning a home rather than renting one. And then number 3, owning.
Renting versus owning and the cost comparison is very interesting, because I would say like 10 years ago, at least in my market and most markets, it was cheaper to own than to rent, because I remember the first time we bought a home like 15 years ago, it was definitely a lot cheaper to own. We bought a three bedroom home versus to rent a 3-bedroom home would have been more expensive. That relationship is the opposite now. So thank you, COVID, and that crisis. But what happened now is with price inflation of real estate along with interest rates, that relationship no longer exists. So it's generally going to be cheaper to rent. That does not, however, automatically mean it's the better financial choice. Everything is weighed in balance and pros and cons, and the financial aspect is really only one part of the equation. So yeah, it may be more expensive, but you are getting principal pay down. Sure. You are getting an appreciating asset over the long term, right? But you also have the, personal real estate is called a use asset for a reason. So you should be using it and taking some enjoyment out of living there. And that's part of the financial equation is do you love living there and are you getting value out of that? And that's not factored into, oh, well, renting would be $700 cheaper a month. But I get it because I'm a numbers person too. And numbers are hard to ignore, especially when you compare them so black and white like that. So, yeah.
The home is just really, really overrated. There's maintenance that you have to worry about. I've already had to replace an AC, and my home is like 3 to 4 years old. So it's actually really, really new. I'm sure at some point I'm going to have to replace a dishwasher, a washer and dryer. Owning a home is not cheap. There are a lot of expenses that come with maintaining a home.
Hidden costs, right? It's the unpredictable things that you don't really think about replacing, that if they break, you got to replace them. Hidden costs.
And you have to do it yourself. If I lived in an apartment complex, I could call the landlord and then they would send somebody to help me fix the problem. Honestly, if I could do it again, I would just rent a nicer apartment or a condo, whatever, in a nicer community, and then just invested my money instead in the stock market. But again, everybody's different. Everybody has different ways to invest and build wealth. Real estate is not one avenue of building wealth that I really like. All right, guys, hope you guys like this video. Make sure you guys follow and like for more.
All right, so how about we jump back into some comments here? This one's pretty funny. You bought a home that was 10 times your annual income. Yeah, that's a lot. $100,000 million home. Really more like 9 times, but still, goodness gracious. That's a lot. 2 bed, 3 baths for $910,000 and a townhouse at that. Normal in good old state of CA, California. Yep. That tracks. I mean, it is what it is. Kind of like real estate, and the price to value and size and affordability and all that is location dependent. So it's normal in some places. But you can't predict all these changes. Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, he's like, well, this happened, so I wish I would have done that. Well, it's natural, I guess, to maybe wonder or think about it, but it's another thing to pretend that life could have been different because you made a decision and that was with no foresight, and because we don't have any foresight and you can't predict what's going to happen. Real estate is a bad investment. Property tax, insurance, maintenance, interest rates, and whatnot. I wouldn't say real estate's a bad investment. Real estate can be a great investment, but real estate and owning a personal residence is not really it's definitely not a short-term investment. And it is a long-term investment, but only because you consider all the factors like principal pay down, which you don't get with rentals. You have home appreciation, even though it's not the typical, like the last, several year period where we had, homes going up 10, 15% every year. It's definitely not that. Normally it's 3, 4, 5% at the very most in most normal markets. And, over a long period of time, 20 years, real estate can be a phenomenal investment. But anything outside of that, I mean, there are the hidden cost of owning real estate, especially personal real estate, that, no tenant's paying for you. So you have to factor that into your philosophy of ownership. And that includes maintenance and what interest rate. And hopefully you follow the interest rate market if you have a higher rate and you want to refinance. So don't sit on a 7% interest rate for forever. Like interest rates come down, refinance that mortgage and get you a better rate. You're completely right. The people that say real estate is a safe asset are people that are so much older and believe the sell and buy nicer and better. Due to the real estate's instability and younger people finding it difficult to buy, this game of sell and buy better is starting to be a losing game. Renting is the future for a number of reasons. The main being that the digital area is a safer bet than the old-fashioned assets. Wow. That's a lot. That is a heavy, heavy philosophy. Old-fashioned assets. So what would that be like? Real estate and the stock market? So what digital is like what crypto and what's that like token, not tokens. Um, yeah, I can't even think of it, but that's crazy. Old fashioned assets are never going to go out of fashion. Um, However, you can't count on certain returns being typical when they are atypical, right? Like there's a typical return and that needs to be factored in. And yeah, it is difficult. Like younger folks, income to the price ratio for real estate is astronomical, highest it's ever been, and it's more difficult than ever to afford a home. And so people that are buying homes that are stretching their affordability, it really sours their owning experience and makes it difficult for them to see the value in home ownership. Buying a home is not good anymore. See, obviously, another person that says buying a home is not good. Buying a home is not good for everyone. I would say that 100%. Renting a home is not good for everyone. Being a landlord is not good for everyone. Owning stocks is not good for everyone. Maybe you should be an index fund investor. Maybe you should invest in bonds. Really like investing is person dependent. So I would challenge people in general to be more broad thinking and not assume that everything has to be one size fits all. Your home is now worth 1.3 million at least. Real estate is always a good investment in Irvine. 1.1, so it has gone up, a bit. That's definitely still not terrible. 200,000 gain. That's actually funny because bought it for 900, it's worth 1.1 now. It's up 200,000. Yet he's complaining about missing out on 150. Does he not see the irony of he made more due to the leverage and due to the leverage component, right? Because that's how that works. So he put in 300,000, would have made 150 if he had put that in the stocks. Maybe depending on what he invested in, but he made 200, so he actually made out more due to the asset being worth 900,000 and not 300,000. Why mortgage rates were so low compared to now? I mean, that's true. They were lower. 2021. I'm trying to think back. Definitely. I think still sub. Yeah. That was before the 2022 Fed rate hike, so they were still 3% ish, maybe 4%, but definitely lower, almost half. So, yeah, hard to regret that.
I'm building a new house and I lack the ability to be able to picture what things are going to look like, which in theory would make building a house very difficult. Lucky for me, my husband is pretty good at picturing things. He's actually good at picking colors and what matches and where things should go, and I applaud him for that because I can do none of that. That being said, for someone who lacks the ability to picture things, I have some very strong opinions, even though I have
Isn't that funny?
no idea what it's gonna look like. We just got our house painted, going with this like wood theme. I like the color gray, but nothing really in our house is gray right now. And I was convinced that we needed to paint our house more of like a light tan color and not a gray, because it would pull out all the colors of everything else we picked out. I knew in the back of my head that I hate the color tan. I also know that when we bought our first house, the walls were tan, and that's the first thing I wanted to do was paint over them. But I still let people convince me that tan was going to be a good idea for our new house. The painters just finished, and they sent us pictures. I haven't seen it in person yet, but they sent us pictures, and I don't know how to tell everybody that I hate it.
Oh my gosh, she's like legit crying. That's bad, y'all. She's clearly overwhelmed with emotion of feeling the burden of not liking her choices, and that's not unnatural. I think if she spent money painting her whole house only to find out that she hates the color, that's tough. She has really two options, and really neither are great, but both are fine, right? So like one is live with it at least for a little bit and then see if it grows on you, see how it works. Like paint's not the worst thing in the world, just to live in a less than perfect painted house, or repaint it, right? Like it's just paint.
So currently my husband and I spent thousands of dollars to have our house mud and taped and then painted, and I currently hate the paint color. I'm really hoping I can just figure it out long enough so that we can get everything else inside, and then I'm hoping everyone else is right and that like once we get the floors and the cabinets and everything inside of it, that's going to be the color that we needed and it's just going to go well with everything. It's not looking good.
Guys, so yeah, I think that's the actual issue here, is that she spent thousands of dollars, and it sounds like even though her husband can like picture what it would look like, she can't, and neither of them maybe are willing to do any like work themselves. So you spent thousands, you hate it. Do you really want to spend thousands more? You know, that's like a tough pill to swallow, right? Because it's paint for, you know, it's paint. So yeah, that actually it's funny because a lot of these home regrets, like I've gone through things like this and I don't actually view them as regrets. So it's actually quite comical, really. Like we purchased a home, we painted the whole house, mostly ourselves, right? It took us like a month to paint it, and we liked it initially, lived with it. And over time, like we painted all the walls, right? So, but we didn't paint the trim. So the trim was much older paint, and over time, it kind of felt like it was mismatched a bit with the paint color, and like it made it really pop out as like it didn't go well together. So we decided like, yeah, it's paint, like we want to change it. So we decided to change it again. You know, to paint the whole house, we probably spent maybe $800 on a pretty good size. You know, that's a lot of paint, but mostly just sweat equity, right? Like we just do it. And I mean, I'm not going to pay somebody $10,000 to paint my house when I can do it in a few weekends or even a couple of months. Like nothing is that bad that, you know, I can't just do it, especially like if you tackle things like in small bites and little bits here and there, it's like, it's fine. So yeah, that's really interesting that she's so upset over the paint.
I think one of my biggest pieces of advice for first-time homebuyers, and one of my regrets, so learn from my mistakes, is to slow down. Most of my first-time homebuyers, myself included, are buying fixer-uppers, right? Like it's where we live is super expensive. Most of them need a little bit of work, and you want it done so fast. Sit on it for a little while. See what works in the house. See what floors you like. Figure out your style. Make a Pinterest board. I immediately got a new privacy fence. Ordered a custom back door, like new carpet. I wanted, honestly, looking back, I spent way too much money. And then I would make more money and I would still spend it because I wanted to get the house done, and it's still not done. And also, I didn't know my style and what I wanted. So now looking back, I would like honestly change a lot of what I did. Even if you have it, don't spend all your money, please. That is one of my biggest regrets, and it doesn't happen overnight. Making a house a home takes time, and I mean, like here I am 3 years later still renovating, obviously. So it's like, just chill out a little bit. Just chill, feel the house, figure out what you like, save up a little bit of money, and just know that like you're gonna get there eventually, but like making a house a home does take time.
Yeah, so ultimately, like some great advice there. Just chill out, like calm down, chill out, slow down. Nothing has to be done overnight.